Welcome to Spiritual Cartel Step Meeting. Tonight we're looking at Step 10 and 11. And this week I'm pleased to introduce CORBOY, who has kindly agreed to come and share for us. CORBOY, over to you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. My name is John CORBOY. I'm a grateful addict. I used to be a hateful addict. It's good to be here with all you beautiful spirits. Um, Welcome to anybody new, anybody thinking of going back out or just back. Um, we're for a long time, I didn't realize how fortunate I was to even make it here to begin with. So to make it back is a beautiful thing. I was in and out a lot at the beginning. Once I started to take suggestions and lean into the program and the people around me and do that work, things started to get a lot better. Um, so I saw a couple people that said, they're struggling, but they're here. And you know what? That honesty and that willingness to let people know where you're at is a big piece of why I'm alive and well today. So, there's no shame in struggling and no shame in asking for help. And I'm glad you're here. These are two beautiful steps, and if I'm being honest with you, first off, my clean date is February 22nd, 2012. My home group is Fellowship of the Spirit. We meet every Wednesday online, and I also have an in-person home group. That's the Wedge group. If you're ever in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you give me a call, and I'm glad to go with you and take you around for some good pizza. Um, I'm anxious today. I don't know why. Sometimes it hits me really hard. It's hitting me really hard today. Um, I don't know why. I'm human. I'm human. We're all human. I know what I need to do. I prayed. I meditated this morning. Um, my daughter's here with one of my best friends that I grew up with. They're playing chess right now in the background. You might hear some giggles or arguments, but it's a beautiful life today, and it wasn't like that before. I would not have had the lights on. I would not have had the blinds open. It was just darkness all the time. And I hated that feeling of the sunlight in the morning because, it made me feel more shame about being up all night. And, these steps to me, continue to take personal inventory and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. It doesn't say if. A lot of old timers point that out to me. It doesn't say if we're wrong a lot. I'm wrong a lot. The sooner I admit it and try to make things right and just take accountability and ownership for things, the better I feel. That, to me, the essence of the way I live my life today is step 10. But I only am able to practice that because I've done the other work, and I continue to do the work when I need to do another step 4 or 5 or whatever it might be, to get my spirit in a good place to be able to be awake enough to pay attention to those things. When they crop up, when I'm scared, when I'm angry, when I'm feeling resentful, when I'm being judgmental, when I'm gossiping about somebody, when I'm angry with somebody and I'm not looking at them the way God would look at them, the way that I should look at them, like they're a sick human being who is struggling, who maybe doesn't have the tools or isn't using the tools that they've been awarded if they're part of this program, and many of them are not. And I pray for them. I had an incident a few weeks ago. I just moved back here. I grew up here and I just moved back, and I was talking with a girl who was struggling and trying to help her with recovery, and her ex-husband called me and threatened to kill me and show up at my home, and yet I prayed for him. I prayed for him, but I had human moments where I felt like, vesting up and showing up at his house the way I would have in the past. But I said, what would God have me do? And I got to get rid of this anger. God, remove this anger. Help me look at this person the way you would. Help me be of maximum service and usefulness and lead the way you would have me lead this life. Like, I have to think to myself when I'm making decisions today, I don't have to do anything. No one's put a gun in my head yet and said I had to do anything here in this program, fortunately. And you know what, looking back, I wish they would have because I was stubborn for a long time. But I get to look at what I'm doing today throughout the day as it's happening. And when I make mistakes, I can recognize them and walk myself back before I dig myself a hole and bury myself today. I don't want to be hurtful, and I don't want to live life in a way that's not meaningful. And I want to be as kind and loving and altruistic as possible in everything that I do. And that's not how I felt when I got here, because I was broken. I was scared. I was angry at the world. I thought life was a dark cloud that followed me around. But I see the light today, and as long as I'm aligned with the Spirit and I walk in that light, it's a beautiful life. The only time I struggle today is when I'm drifting from that, when I'm not doing this. This is an inventory to keep me in check as I'm living my life throughout the day. This is an opportunity to pause before I say or do something that's going to hurt somebody that I'm going to regret, so I can stop the messes from happening before I have to clean them up. And there's been lots of instances where that restraint of tongue and pen has not been there. And there are some things I have done and some relationships I have burned to the ground that I cannot repair because they were with people that I had been, actively working towards making amends with. And then that split second where I didn't do that, where I didn't take that moment to think and gather my thoughts and feelings and think, how would God have me respond in this situation? And I have burned relationships to the ground that took me years to get back. And I may never get them back again. All because I didn't take that moment to pause, right? And I've done that with my children too as a father, There's been times that they've walked around on eggshells, worried about how I'm going to react to things, because I can be explosive if I'm not doing these things, if I'm not practicing these principles in all my affairs, if I'm not following the design for living that's in the literature. It's easy to come up here and just say things that sound good. But to live it is a whole different thing. And it's a lot easier to talk about it when you live it. And I live it to the best of my ability today. And that's the thing I was thinking to myself, my brain's telling me this mental health stuff I deal with, right? I take medication, I go to a therapist, I work this program, I help others, I do all the things I'm supposed to do to take care of myself. But I still have days where I struggle, moments where I struggle. They don't have to be bad days anymore. But I said to myself, I said to my mind, what are you telling me? Like, I live this. Why are you trying to freak me out here? I live this. I don't have anything to worry about. The Spirit's got me. It's all good. There's a bunch of beautiful people in this room and we all want to get well. You may be stubborn, but if you're here, you want to get well. If you're being honest with yourself, right? I didn't come here on a winning streak, and I came here in desperation. And then I got the gift of willingness to start to do some things. And for me, I know they say step 6 separates the men from the boys, but I actually think my script is showing up right now. So I'm going to throw my buddy some money to go grab it for me. I I think this is the step that really sets the foundation for our life and the example that we can be and what we demonstrate for other people. It's a character building in action. The character building that we do is 6, 7, and then the amends, that builds us up to be that version of us that was always there, that we had avoided for so long. This step is the action that demonstrates that to the people around us, that gives people hope that aren't in the street. You would not believe the amount of people that have reached out to me since I've been home that are struggling and say, how can I have what you have? How can I stop living like this? How can I feel better about myself? How can I be healthy like you? Those opportunities that come to me to be a servant, and do God's work and take care of his children. And if I want to get closer to God, my friend Ali says, you got to get closer to his children. And the best way to do that is to look for the people that are struggling. Because I was 8 years into recovery thinking about putting a gun in my mouth when my kids are running around upstairs. You don't, like, the time doesn't mean anything. If you're here for your first hour right now, there's always going to be somebody that you can help in some way by checking in with them, right? And if you're awake enough to see those things, then you have those opportunities to be of service, and you will get closer to the Spirit. That to me has been the best way to get closer to God, is to get closer to the people that are struggling. And staying with the people that are well and learning from them and growing with them, the spiritual giants that that I have around me in my life. My friend Donna J, I see here. I see her. She was here. My friend Young. We meet every Monday. We go through spiritual literature, and it's amazing. We read a paragraph or two, and we unpack it, and just share perspectives. And some days I just listen, and some days I don't even feel worthy to be in their presence. And then Donna gets upset with me and tells me, like, you're with us. We're shoulder to shoulder. But yeah. Step 10 is that demonstration that you're trying your best to practice these principles in all your affairs. That you're willing to have enough humility to admit when you're wrong, and that you're having a genuine sincerity to make things right, and to move with love and lead with love and move in a way that inspires other people to do well and be kind. And regardless of what has happened in my life, when I'm doing those things, I never feel fearful of what might come my way. And I always have this overarching feeling of this safeness, this protection. It's only when I step outside of that I really struggle. There's some really good stuff in the book. Everybody loves this, the spiritual axiom, right? And the 12 and 12. Every time we're disturbed, no matter what the cause, there is something wrong with us. If I'm staying angry, then I'm choosing to stay angry. If I'm suffering, then I'm choosing to suffer. Because I've been fortunate enough to be around long enough to see demonstrations of transformations in people's lives. And when I'm doubting that, this problem of ours, this disease that centers in the mind, is telling me that that's not true. But I've literally seen thousands of lives transform as a result of this program. So suffering, like my friend Young says, suffering is optional. There is a solution. There's a way out. There's been times I called people in tears. I don't know what to do. You know exactly what to do. Call my sponsor. I'm having the worst day. Well, you better pray and call me later. And he hangs up on me. Reach out to another addict, somebody else. Get out of yourself. When I get in that poor me state of mind, all I want to do is numb myself. All I want to do is justify how I'm acting. All I want to do is justify how I'm treating other people. And that is an awful place for me to be. When I take the substances out of my body, I'm still just as sick as when I walked in here. I have to replace it with something. Oreos, burgers, women, whatever it is, I will seek it out. I will use this as a dating service, and lust will lead me through the night if I'm not doing the things I need to do to keep myself healthy. I will stop finding the people that are suffering and finding ways to help them, and I will look at them as prey and something for me to take advantage of, because that is how sick I am if my spirit isn't right. And the only way to keep my spirit right that I've found is by living those principles as best I can in all areas of my life. And man, I've had some humbling and embarrassing moments, happen while I've been in recovery that hold me accountable to those things. One time my friend Alice called me, and we were talking, and like, one of those people that I was seeking something through, like, she was connected to, and she's somebody that I respect and admire so great. And I'm looking so good to her on the outside, but inside I was sick and I was suffering. And, I'm fortunate for that. She was, she felt, a little, it was an embarrassing, hard conversation for her to have with me. But it forced me to really look at myself and recognize, what am I running from? Where am I broken? What am I ignoring? What am I not paying attention to? What am I not healing that's causing me to act in a way that is shameful, that I need to hide from people, that I need to keep up, this persona or this image that I'm selling people instead of just being true to myself. That's what happens when I'm not living the principles. And for me, that's, step 10 is about that. It's demonstrating the principles to the best of my ability. It says integrity, right? And to me, integrity and character is doing the right thing when nobody is listening or watching or anything. Doing the right thing when nobody is watching. So I'm making the right decision. Even when somebody vulnerable approaches me, I'm not taking advantage of them. I'm doing what I can to help them, to connect them with other people. It means that when somebody, there's that anxiety again. One of my managers at work, the spiritual principle is step 10 is integrity, right? And one of my managers at work back in the day had this poster on her wall, characters doing the right thing when nobody's looking. And I didn't know what it meant at the time, even though I was like 5 years, in recovery, because I wasn't in recovery. I was clean, but I wasn't doing the work to fix what was broken, to patch it together, to be able to be a demonstration. Now I get to carry that light, and I get to try to light up the darkness around me as much as possible. Now I have people that trust me, that rely on me, that depend on me, that know that I'm there for them, that know that I mean well and I move with good intentions. No ill intent, no ulterior motives today. That's not the way I move anymore. I still have my moments where I get angry and I want to be this tough guy that I'm really not. I have my moments where I stumble, but I'm fortunate enough to have these beautiful people around me that get me back on track. The literature is my compass. And the people around me are the guides that are walking with me shoulder to shoulder, helping me along my journey. Jealousy, envy, self-pity, hurt, pride. Can you be useful? Can you feel well when you're experiencing those things? I've been in relationships where I worried the whole time the girl was going to cheat on me and she didn't, and I destroyed it. And I've had the opposite happen where I worried the whole time she's going to cheat on me and she did. And then I've had times where I didn't worry at all and they cheat on me, and you know what? It hurts the same. But I guarantee you I was much more useful during those periods of time where I was at peace, when I had inner peace and I was really living this program. I was much more useful to the people around me. I was much more willing and able to be thoughtful, caring, kind, loving, tolerant, forgiving, understanding. I carry no hate in my heart today. And that's not by mistake. That's not a coincidence. That's because I've had a spiritual awakening. So I wake up with a deeper purpose today. Who can I help today? How can I be of service today? How can I be better than I was the day before? Every meeting in the moment of silence, I say, God, please look out for all who are suffering. Please help them find their way here. And if not, please take care of them. And thank you for giving us all a seat. I've done that for 12 years. When I would wake up and I'd say, God, help me stay sober today. God, thanks for helping me stay clean today at the end of the night. And I wondered why, I would see people with 5 or 6 months of clean time, and they seemed to have this deep spiritual connection that I didn't have, but I wasn't leaning in and putting the effort in to have that deep spiritual connection, to build that relationship with the Creator. And I wasn't awake enough or a demonstration enough for people to come to me and ask me to help them. And I wasn't looking for people and ways to help them. I was giving newcomers my number and complaining that they weren't calling me, but I wasn't asking for their number. And I'm still stubborn today. I'm coming up on 13 years, God willing, and I still don't call people when I should. We all struggle with that. So my sponsor said to me, well, why don't you start getting their number and checking in on them? But then I got super codependent, and I'm messaging them 5 times a day, and I'm giving them speeches, and I'm checking in too much. I don't have the power to keep people clean. And I can't rob anyone of their spiritual experience. They have to walk their path, but I will do anything I can to help you or connect you to somebody who has experience with what you're going through and try to help you through it. I will share whatever I can and with vulnerability about my story to help you see that there's beauty in the brokenness and the darkness, and that you can find the light in that darkness, and then you're able to help other people find that light when they don't see any at all. You know, the solution is that candle that follows me everywhere now. That light is always there for me. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. Conscious contact, that means throughout the day, consciously awoke, paying attention to what God is trying to tell me, where he is guiding me. The way I move needs to be aligned with the sunlight of the Spirit. You know, when we talked, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and power to carry that out. Not a lottery win, not the girl of my dreams, not the sports car, not the jackpot at the casino, none of that. Not for my friend who's sick to survive. Like, I mean, I say, God, whatever your will is, just help them find the strength to get through it and help me be a service and help me, I'm not going to say that to people, but I can't pray things for people to get them well. I don't have that power, but I can do whatever I can to be useful, helpful, kind, and loving throughout that. And, we were talking about this yesterday. Young and Donna and I were talking about this, where it says the truth will set you free. That you is that selfish me, that me that's consumed with what I want. And when I'm truthful and aligned with the Spirit, then that gets set free, and I don't care about that anymore. I don't live my life in a selfish way. I live my life in a meaningful way. What you need becomes more important than what I want. I just want to do what I can to love people unconditionally and make a difference and do whatever I can to help. Conscious contact with God, whatever that is. For a while, I struggled with that God idea, and my sponsor just said, just write down the characteristics of a good friend. If you did believe in God, what would it be? God is in all of us, but how do we make that come to life? So I wrote them down, loving, kind, tolerant, patient, forgiving. All these characteristics that I would want in a friend. And now, what's funny is now I live my life in a way that's aligned with those things. I try my best to live my life in a way that is aligned with those characteristics. When I feel angry towards someone, I get that list out still. And I look at it and I say, am I being these things towards this person? Because if I'm not, then I'm not aligned with God. So for the longest time, I didn't have any kind of practice really outside of the prayer. My first prayer was middle finger to the sky. I don't believe you're out there. I dare you to keep me clean. Go for it. That was my first prayer. Now I talk to God throughout the day. Now at night, when I go through my day, I used to use apps that said they were a step 10 nightly inventory and confused me because step 10 is not a nightly inventory. It's a daily practice throughout the day. When you're wrong, you promptly admit it. You clean things up. You reach out to someone else in need. You connect with somebody else. You get out of yourself. How can you be of service? How can you be useful? Mm-hmm. But step 11, I used to be really formal and write it all out. And however you want to practice it is fine. Just get in some type of practice has been my experience. And for me, I just lay there and I think about my day and I reflect on the way I reacted or I didn't react or responded or, oh man, I was talking about that. What was I doing talking about that person? Why did I even involve myself in that? Why was I messaging that girl? Do I really care about that girl? Do I want to bring something into that woman's life? Or am I just seeking something selfishly? Did I eat 5 McDoubles from McDonald's at 3 a.m. because I was hungry? Or did I eat that because there are emotions that I'm running from? Those are the things I get to think about and reflect on when I lay in my bed tonight. And those things, that pop up throughout the day, I'm taking care of them. So as time has gone on and I get lean more into that practice at night, I don't have as much to dwell on. I get to think a lot about the things that I've done well that day. Self-examination, meditation, and prayer. Taken separately, these practices can bring much relief and benefit, but when they're logically related and interwoven, the result is an unshakable foundation for life. I was so stubborn for the longest time. They're telling me, we have this gift. We found this treasure. We've got this unshakable foundation, but I kept suffering. I chose to believe that what I was doing was right. What I was doing was the right way to go about it. And I refused the help that was right there in front of me. Some days I didn't feel worthy to accept it. But I tell you what, I spent years feeling not worthy, feeling worthless, feeling like I didn't want to live, and not telling people and dwelling in that and not seeking help from a psychiatrist and a therapist and good friends and my sponsor and my family did me no good and no good to the people around me. I lived in darkness for years, and it wasn't until I got vulnerable enough to let people know what I was going through and became willing enough to accept help and walk a different path that I started to feel better. Now I've my best friend overdosed. My dad passed away. I've got friends, that are sick with things going on, threats, like all these other things are happening, and I am at peace. I am at peace more often than not. And when I'm not at peace, I know something's missing. I'm not doing something. And that's a result of living these principles in step 10 and cleaning things up along the way and improving my conscious contact with a power greater than me. Sometimes I just don't have faith in anything. I see all the awful things going on in the world and I think, how could this happen? I don't think the God that I believe exists in all of us. And it comes to life when we get rid of self and we get to show up as agents of that in this life. And what it is a power to get through things and get over things and find value and find worth in the mistakes. It's not about God controlling what's right and wrong. It's about our ability to show up in the midst of chaos and heartache and just do the right things and do what we can to help other people. God doesn't control what's happening in the world, but that power gives me what I need to be of service and be useful and be healthy. I can't tell you, one time I grinded up regular Tylenol because I couldn't find anything. And I stored it just because I needed something in my nostrils to get me through that moment. And I can tell you, I was obsessed. Even when I was trying to spend time with my kids, all I could think about was the party. I wasn't present. I wasn't awake. I was irritable, restless, and discontent, like they say on page 52. All those things were me. That's been me in recovery. But I will tell you that regardless, despite what's happened in my life, I have not felt a desire to use in over 12 years. And that is a miracle. That is a miracle because I craved it every second of the day and I did anything I could to get it, despite who I would hurt, despite the bridges I would burn, despite what I had to do to get it, despite the shame. It consumed me. I was obsessed with it. Even when I didn't put one in, it's all I thought about. And as soon as I did, I just wanted the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. And it never filled that void inside me. And eventually, no matter how much I did, it was never enough to numb that pain. I don't need that anymore. I'm high on life. I'm high on life. And I wanted to punch guys in the face that said that too. It's okay. If you're in a place where you're in darkness today and you're down and you feel like, man, this guy is too much for me right now. What I'm trying to say is that the darkness was my best friend. But I found the light there. And without the darkness, I don't think I would have. The prayer of St. Francis, I remember sharing at a meeting and this old timer said, you're the living example of the prayer of St. Francis. And there's nothing special about me, man. We're all addicts. We've all done the same thing to get what we want. We've all done things we regret. We've all made mistakes in our life. We've all abandoned the people we love to pursue that high. Like we've all been there, But when I'm aligned with the Spirit, then I get to be an example, and I get to be that demonstration, that prayer of St. Francis gets to come to life. Those step 10 promises that they talk about. I never understood that before, but now, regardless of what's going on in my life, I don't have to react insanely like I used to before. I don't have to try to deal with things the way I dealt with them before. I know what the alternative is. I don't want it. I want this life. I wouldn't trade it for all the money in the world. If I had to lose what I've learned in this program and the beautiful people around me, you couldn't convince me. I'm at peace and I'm okay no matter what's going on. And I know that everything's going to be okay, even if it's not okay. It's all good. And, I think the beautiful thing is what I learned was important was just get some type of practice going. Because as I practice, it grows from that. Like I told you what my first prayer was. And then I read 85 to 88 for years. I would read it as I was running to catch the bus. It doesn't work the same when you do that. You're supposed to take time. Be in the moment, be still. Try to listen, try to lean in. People mention books. My friend Donna, anytime someone mentions a book, she gets it, and reads it. I read these books. Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, being in the moment, no matter what's going on, my acceptance of things I don't like, I can be in the moment and be at peace. I'm only able to do that, though, because I've done all the work to get to these steps, to truly appreciate them and live them and practice them. But it's okay if you don't get it perfect. It's okay if your prayer is only, hey, thanks for waking me up today, and thanks for another day of life, and thanks for keeping me clean today. It's all good. What I'm saying is build on that practice. It's just like martial arts or anything else. There's lots of black belts in the world, but there's black belts that continue to study and learn other crafts and other styles of fighting, and they just perfect their craft. And I think with recovery, the beautiful thing is it's not a selfish thing. I'm just trying to get as close as I can to the Spirit so I can do that work. So I can be that demonstration that people were for me. So I can be of maximum service. So I can live altruistically. So I can be as kind and selfless as possible. I know I can't do that alone, and I don't have to do that alone. And I know I can stay sober without any kind of program, but I can't recover. I've recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. I've recovered from a disease that centers in my mind, an allergy and an obsession, where I was consumed with chasing a substance or a high or a feeling that was temporary. Now I have this unlimited spiritual bank account. You know what? You can keep the money. I don't want $100 million because eventually I'm going to spend it all. But my spiritual bank account is full. There's no limit. That's all I got, guys. I love you all. Thanks so much for having me here. It's a blessing to be with all of you.